Before entering the Promised Land, the Israelites were admonished by Moses to keep the Sabbath day to sanctify it. Deuteronomy 5 verse 12. The Lord designed that by a faithful observance of the Sabbath command, Israel should continually be reminded of their accountability to Him as their Creator and their Redeemer. While they should keep the Sabbath in the proper spirit, idolatry could not exist, but should the claims of this precept of the Decalogue be set aside as no longer binding, the Creator would be forgotten and men would worship other gods. I gave them my Sabbaths, God declared, to be a sign between me and them, that they might know that I am the Lord that sanctify them. Yet they despised my judgments and walked not in my statutes, but polluted my Sabbaths, for their heart went after their idols. And in His appeal to them to return to Him, He called their attention anew to the importance of keeping the Sabbath holy. I am the Lord your God, He said, walk in my statutes, and keep my judgments, and do them, and hallow my Sabbaths, and they shall be a sign between me and you, that ye may know that I am the Lord your God. Ezekiel 20 verses 12 and 16, 19, 20. In calling the attention of Judah to the sins that finally brought upon them the Babylonian captivity, the Lord declared, Thou hast profaned my Sabbaths. Therefore have I poured out mine indignation upon them, I have consumed them with the fire of my wrath, their own way have I recompensed upon their heads. Ezekiel 22 verses 8 and 31. At the restoration of Jerusalem in the days of Nehemiah, Sabbath breaking was met with the stern inquiry, Did not your fathers thus, and did not our God bring all this evil upon us and upon the city? Yet you bring more wrath upon Israel by profaning the Sabbath. Nehemiah 13 verse 18. Christ, during His earthly ministry, emphasized the binding claims of the Sabbath. In all His teaching, He showed reverence for the institution He Himself had given. In His days, the Sabbath had become so perverted that its observance reflected the character of selfish and arbitrary men rather than the character of God. Christ set aside the false teaching by which those who claimed to know God had misrepresented Him. Although followed with merciless hostility by the rabbis, He did not even appear to conform to their requirements, but went straight forward, keeping the Sabbath according to the law of God. In unmistakable language, He testified to His regard for the law of Jehovah. Think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets, He said, I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, till all be fulfilled. Whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments, and shall teach men so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But whosoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. Matthew 5 verses 17 to 19. During the Christian dispensation, the great enemy of man's happiness has made the Sabbath of the fourth commandment an object of special attack. Satan says, I will work at cross purposes with God. I will empower my followers to set aside God's memorial, the seventh-day Sabbath. Thus I will show the world that the day sanctified and blessed by God has been changed. That day shall not live in the minds of the people. I will obliterate the memory of it. I will place in its stead a day that does not bear the credentials of God, a day that cannot be assigned between God and His people. I will lead those who accept this day to place upon it the sanctity that God placed upon the seventh day. Through my vicegerent I will exalt myself. The first day will be extolled, and the Protestant world will receive the spurious Sabbath as genuine. Through the non-observance of the Sabbath that God instituted, I will bring His law into contempt. The words, a sign between me and you throughout your generations, I will make to serve on the side of my Sabbath. Thus the world will become mine. I will be the ruler of the earth, the prince of the world. I will so control the minds under my power that God's Sabbath shall be a special object of contempt. A sign? I will make the observance of the seventh day a sign of disloyalty to the authorities of earth. Human laws will be made so stringent that men and women will not dare to observe the seventh-day Sabbath. For fear of wanting food and clothing, they will join with the world in transgressing God's law. The earth will be wholly under my dominion. Through the setting up of a false Sabbath, the enemy thought to change times and laws. But has he really succeeded in changing God's law? The words of the 31st chapter of Exodus are the answer. He who is the same yesterday, today, and forever has declared of the seventh-day Sabbath, it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations. It is a sign forever. Exodus 31 verses 13 and 17. The changed signpost is pointing the wrong way, but God has not changed. He is still the mighty God of Israel. Behold, the nations are as a drop of a bucket, and are counted as the small dust of the balance. Behold, he taketh up the isles as a very little thing. And Lebanon is not sufficient to burn, nor the beasts thereof sufficient for a burnt offering. All nations before him are as nothing, and they are counted to him less than nothing and vanity. Isaiah 40 verses 15 to 17. And he is just as jealous for his law now as he was in the days of Ahab and Elijah. But how is that law disregarded? Behold the world today in open rebellion against God. This is in truth a froward generation, filled with ingratitude, formalism, insincerity, pride, and apostasy. Men neglect the Bible and hate truth. Jesus sees his law rejected, his love despised, his ambassadors treated with indifference. He has spoken by his mercies, but these have been unacknowledged. He has spoken by warnings, but these have been unheeded. The temple courts of the human soul have been turned into places of unholy traffic. Selfishness, envy, pride, malice, all are cherished. Many do not hesitate to sneer at the word of God. Those who believe that word just as it reads are held up to ridicule. There is a growing contempt for law and order directly traceable to a violation of the plain commands of Jehovah. Violence and crime are the result of turning aside from the path of obedience. Behold the wretchedness and misery of multitudes who worship at the shrine of idols and who seek in vain for happiness and peace. Behold the well-nigh universal disregard of the Sabbath commandment. Behold also the daring impiety of those who, while enacting laws to safeguard the supposed sanctity of the first day of the week, at the same time are making laws legalizing the liquor traffic. Wise above that which is written, they attempt to coerce the consciences of men, while lending their sanction to an evil that brutalizes and destroys the beings created in the image of God. It is Satan himself who inspires such legislation. He well knows that the curse of God will rest on those who exalt human enactments above the divine, and he does all in his power to lead men into the broad road that ends in destruction. So long have men worshipped human opinions and human institutions that almost the whole world is following after idols. And he who has endeavored to change God's law is using every deceptive artifice to induce men and women to array themselves against God and against the sign by which the righteous are known. But the Lord will not always suffer his law to be broken and despised with impunity. There is a time coming when the lofty looks of man shall be humbled, and the haughtiness of men shall be bowed down, and the Lord alone shall be exalted in that day. Isaiah 2 verse 11. Skepticism may treat the claims of God's law with jest, scoffing, and denial. The spirit of worldliness may contaminate the many and control the few. The cause of God may hold its ground only by great exertion and continual sacrifice, yet in the end the truth will triumph gloriously. In the closing work of God in the earth, the standard of his law will be again exalted. False religion may prevail, iniquity may abound, the love of many may wax cold, the cross of Calvary may be lost sight of, and darkness, like the pall of death, may spread over the world, the whole force of the popular current may be turned against the truth. Plot after plot may be formed to overthrow the people of God, but in the hour of greatest peril the God of Elijah will raise up human instrumentalities to bear a message that will not be silenced. In the populous cities of the land and in the places where men have gone to the greatest lengths in speaking against the Most High, the voice of stern rebuke will be heard. Boldly will men of God's appointment denounce the union of the church with the world. Earnestly will they call upon men and women to turn from the observance of a man-made institution to the observance of the true Sabbath. Fear God and give glory to him, they will proclaim to every nation, for the hour of his judgment is come, and worship him that made heaven and earth and the sea and the fountains of waters. If any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation. Revelation 14 verses 7 to 10. God will not break his covenant, nor alter the thing that has gone out of his lips. His word will stand fast forever, as unalterable as his throne. At the judgment this covenant will be brought forth, plainly written with the finger of God, and the world will be arraigned before the bar of infinite justice to receive sentence. Today, as in the days of Elijah, the line of demarcation between God's commandment, keeping people, and the worshippers of false gods is clearly drawn. How long halt you between two opinions? Elijah cried, "If the Lord be God, follow him, but if Baal, then follow him." 1 Kings 18 verse 21. And the message for today is Babylon the Great is fallen, is fallen. Come out of her, my people, that you be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and God hath remembered her iniquities. Revelation 18 verses 2 and 4, 5. The time is not far distant when the test will come to every soul. The observance of the false Sabbath will be urged upon us. The contest will be between the commandments of God and the commandments of men. Those who have yielded step by step to worldly demands and conform to worldly customs will then yield to the powers that be, rather than subject themselves to derision, insult, threatened imprisonment, and death. At that time the gold will be separated from the dross. True godliness will be clearly distinguished from the appearance and tinsel of it. Many a star that we have admired for its brilliance will then go out in darkness. Those who have assumed the ornaments of the sanctuary but are not clothed with Christ's righteousness will then appear in the shame of their own nakedness. Among earth's inhabitants, scattered in every land, there are those who have not bowed the knee to Baal. Like the stars of heaven, which appear only at night, these faithful ones will shine forth when darkness covers the earth and gross darkness the people. In heathen Africa, in the Catholic lands of Europe and of South America, in China, in India, in the islands of the sea, and in all the dark corners of the earth, God has in reserve a firmament of chosen ones that will yet shine forth amidst the darkness, revealing clearly to an apostate world the transforming power of obedience to his law. Even now they are appearing in every nation, among every tongue and people, and in the hour of deepest apostasy, when Satan's supreme effort is made to cause all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive, under penalty of death, the sign of allegiance to a false rest day. These faithful ones, blameless and harmless, the sons of God, without rebuke, will shine as lights in the world. Revelation 13 verse 16, Philippians 2 verse 15. The darker the night, the more brilliantly will they shine. What strange work Elijah would have done in numbering Israel at the time when God's judgments were falling upon the backsliding people. He could count only one on the Lord's side. But when he said, I, even I only, am left, and they seek my life, the word of the Lord surprised him. Yet I have left me 7,000 in Israel, all the knees which have not bowed unto Baal. 1 Kings 19 verses 14 and 18. Then let no man attempt to number Israel today, but let everyone have a heart of flesh, a heart of tender sympathy, a heart that, like the heart of Christ, reaches out for the salvation of a lost world.